incorporate Google Maps into our mobile application. Well, now we want to actually incorporate location data, and this is data that's coming off of the GPS sensor in the device. And we're going to use that to actually position the map exactly where the user is. So we're going to continue in this same project that we called Maps. The first thing we have to do if we want to access the GPS is we need to add a new permission in our manifest file. So I'm going to go to our manifest and go to the Permissions tab, and we're going to click Add. We're going to add a uses permission. And now we want to go to Android permission.access find location. This gives us access to finding the location based off of the GPS sensor or just using the network towers to be able to get a location, which isn't quite as accurate, but is still useful. This course location actually will allow you to only get the location based off of the network, not using GPS. So we're going to choose Access Find Location here. And we can see what happens here in the manifest file. We just have another permission that we've registered for, which is Access Find Location. So now we want to go back to our Java file. You can see here that we got a reference to our map view that was actually in our XML. But if we want to control the map, meaning we want to position it, set the zoom, do all those types of things, we actually need to get a reference to the map controller. So I'm going to create a new property here called map controller, and I'll just call it control. And to do that, we can say view.getController. So there's a method on our map view called getController, which will return the controller for our map. And this is going to allow us to use that class to manipulate the map any way that we want to. So now in order to get location updates, the first thing we have to do is to get the location service from the system. So we're going to create a new instance of the location manager class. And I'll just call it manager. And to this, we're going to say this.getSystemService. And the service is context.locationService. Like that. Now we're going to have to go ahead and cast that to location manager. But this basically gets us access to the location service. So one of the things we have to do now is to create a location listener, and this is going to be called anytime there's an update to the GPS. So we're going to create a new instance of location listener here, and I'll just call it listener is equal to new location listener. And we're going to use the anonymous inner type, so we can see now it's created a new location listener with all of the available override methods. So we have on status changed, provider enabled, provider disabled, and on location changed. Now obviously this is the method here that we're going to use the most. So anytime the GPS sensor senses a change in location, it's going to call this method, and then we can update our map to set the correct position. So when on location is called, what we want to do is to use our map controller to set the position of our map. So I'm going to say control. You can see we need to change the modifier of control to final because we're referencing it in this anonymous inner event handler. So I'm going to say control, and then we're going to call the set center function. And this is going to set the center of our map to wherever the location coordinates are coming in from the GPS. You can see here that this expects us to pass in a geopoint object, but the location here is actually of type location. So what we need to do is extract the latitude and longitude from this location object and pass it into a new geopoint object. So I'm going to say new geopoint. Now this expects an integer for the latitude and the longitude. Inside of this location object, we have two functions. One is get latitude and one is get longitude. So for this, we can say location dot get latitude. And then for longitude, we can say location dot get longitude. Notice we're getting an error here. It's because this is actually providing double values that come out of this location object. So we just need to cast them to integers by just putting a int in parentheses here. So now again, anytime the location changes, we're going to set the center point of the map to that new location. So now that we have this listener created, the next thing we need to do is to actually register to get location updates. So remember up here, we created this location manager. Now we're actually going to use it down here. So I'm going to say manager, and it's going to be request location updates. And we're going to use this second one, which gives a string provider. And for the provider here, we're going to tell it which provider we want to use. If we wanted to use the network towers, we could do that, but we actually want to use GPS. So the strings or the constants are actually in the location manager class. And inside of there, you can see we can choose from GPS provider or network provider. But for this example, we want to use GPS.